MLB postseason awards are starting to come out. We saw Corbin Burnes and Robbie Ray, the Cy Young winners for the AL and the NL. We find out the MVPs on Thursday. We're recording this on Wednesday night. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, episode 175 of The Next Best Bet. And Brett, we're going to talk about last episode's picks, but I also have that Vlad Guerrero pending AL MVP bet. I think it's going to be to Ohtani. Like I said, when I placed this Guerrero bet, it was me kind of hedging, and I only use air quotes because it's not a true hedge. There's still obviously other options for AL MVP, but I see it as a two-man race. I had taken Ohtani off the podcast back in May. I'm doing the Guerrero pick. I did that in September to try to hedge myself in case Ohtani didn't win, because I thought there was a chance there Vlad might have gotten the Triple Crown, but he didn't, so I think this goes to Ohtani.
Yeah, this is Shohei's award, so you'll be okay there, Higgins. And then, yeah, a lot of other good stuff going on. We've got free agency going on in the MLB, Higgins. Seeing some guys sign. We've got the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, college football, college basketball. It's kind of hard to keep track of it all, but we're doing our best here.
We are. So last episode, you went a fair 1-1, still sitting at a positive 4.86 units. Myself, I went 2-2-1. We'll find out if I ended up going 3-2-1 or had a losing record. That all depends on Northern Illinois, who just went to overtime with Buffalo right before you and I started our recording, Brett. So that game will hopefully be wrapped up by the end of this recording, and we'll find out how I actually did last episode. But let's move into Beginner's Boulevard and talk about a term that you might hear some people say, and it's line betting, but that's just another way of saying that you're betting the spread or something like that, right?
Yeah, Higgins, that's a good one to bring up because some people may hear line betting and might not have understood what that term means. So just understanding that they're talking about what you and I, Higgins, call the spread, that's good for gamblers to know and be aware of. And again, we're always just trying to add to our vocabulary here.
Absolutely. They're just synonymous phrases, simple as that. No more simpler than this type of Beginner's Boulevard.
Exactly. One of the easier ones.
For sure. Let's talk about a loaded weekend that we have ahead of us, Brett, because as we've talked in previous episodes, we have college basketball and football. We have NFL, NBA, NHL, and I like the UFC card a little bit, so we're going to talk about that near the end. We should start with the NFL because, Brett, even though neither of us are on the Thursday night game, it is a Super Bowl rematch a few years later and a few different players later, but one quarterback still remains, and that's Matt Ryan, who still receives a lot of the jokes of that 28-3 scenario.
Yeah, I guess, I hadn't even thought of that, Higgins. But I will say this, everyone thinks Atlanta stinks right now, so I expect money to be coming in on New England. Although these Oregon lines, Higgins, am I seeing -7 plus 100? So maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe the money in Oregon's coming in on Atlanta.
Yeah, it's sitting at a touchdown line with the Patriots favored by -7 at minus or plus 100. And I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I might find myself betting here in Oregon on Thursday for this game. Find myself maybe fading New England because remember, I sold my Bill Belichick Coach of the Year. Am I salty about that after he got some big wins and people are now saying New England's back? Maybe. Maybe I'm a little salty, so maybe I'm just a Patriots hater and don't listen to me, but I don't know. I think that this might be a meaningful game for one quarterback, and for the other, he doesn't know what he's necessarily walking into.
Well, I guess it's possible, but I cannot say I think this is a Super Bowl revenge game in whatever week 11 of the regular season.
Absolutely. I am probably just insane. Let's move on to Sunday's games, Brett, and talk about Washington at the Panthers. This is Ron Rivera returning to Carolina. Cam Newton recently returned to Carolina. Now, who's going to be starting for the Panthers? We're still not sure. But the line in Oregon is sitting at plus 3.5. When we talk about those key numbers being plus 3 or at that 7 mark. And I'm going to take this line with the hook. I'm going to take Washington at plus 3.5 because I do think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be back and forth. And I'm not bought and sold on a Carolina wave that just crept up with the Cam Newton hype after he came back last week.
Yeah, Higgins, here's a fun fact for you. Taylor Heineke at one point backed up Cam Newton in Carolina. So, um, interesting game here. Ron Rivera, obviously the head coach in Washington now, was Cam's coach during that MVP season. So, I don't know. I'm staying away from this one because I would not want to be going against the Cam Newton home return game for the Panthers against the former coach, the former backup. That just seems like a spot I want to avoid.
There's a lot of emotions in this game for sure. There's a lot of emotions going on in this one. It's going to be fun to watch, I think. It's going to be a good early slate game. Brett, you're on another game that I was very tempted. I looked at that line close, but I decided to stay away. I couldn't bring myself to it.
Yeah, 49ers at Jaguars, Higgins. This one's going to be ugly. 49ers traveling west to east. Jaguars, not a great team. 49ers coming off a huge win against the LA Rams on Sunday Night Football, Higgins. That was a big game for the 49ers there. And look, this just feels like a letdown spot. 6 points is a lot. 49ers probably escaped this one with a W, but look, we saw the Jaguars beat up on the Buffalo Bill. Not really beat up. It was 9-6. That was an awful game too. So we saw the Jaguars beat the Bills, so we've seen them sneak up on some teams here, Higgins. So I guess I just believe they keep this one within one touchdown here.
Going into Monday, San Francisco was 2-6 against the spread. Now they obviously covered the spread in a game that they were an underdog and won outright on Monday. So now they're 3-6. But let's not say an individual game is going to mark a trend against the spread. The trend was that they haven't been good against it. I like you picking it. I was personally holding off to see, because I'm on the West Coast, if more money floods onto that Niners line, and I might be able to get it over a touchdown, because I could see that happening over here in Oregon. Maybe not there in New Jersey, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think 49ers probably a more public team than Jacksonville for sure. So maybe you could get it across the country there.
That's fair. That is fair. Another NFC West and West Coast matchup that I like, Brett, is the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. A bird game. Gotta love a bird game in the NFL, right?
Bird game, absolutely. Well, you get this matchup twice a year, dude.
Yes, you do get this matchup twice a year, and this one's closer to my neck of the woods. It's in Seattle, which is closer than Arizona, but not by much. I mean, it is still like 8 hours away from where I live in Oregon. But Arizona's minus 130 because they're still not quite sure who's going to actually be playing in that Cardinals offense yet. Is it going to be Kyler Murray? Is it going to be DeAndre Hopkins? Is it only going to be one of them? Is it going to be both of them? Is it going to be neither of them? I think they both return. And I'm going to take money line at minus 130 while it's still early because while they're listed as questionable and while there's some probability or possibilities of and rumors that they're going to come back, there's no definitive talk out of Arizona yet. So I'm taking the money line before it becomes definitive before it becomes definitive because that's going to move it a lot to me.
Yeah, I think it's probably partially baked in here that he's coming back. He seems to be trending in that direction, so maybe it moves a full point, maybe a half point Higgins. But you're right, there will be a little movement once Kyler is officially back. So, look, you think he's coming back? You feel confident in the reporting to this point? Um, and it really isn't reporting, right? He said it. He's like, if I'm good, I'm good. I'm gonna play.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you feel confident, and Kyler has that kind of say in Arizona. Um, yeah, why not just take it now?
Yep, I'm taking it now. I'm taking the early value because who knows where it's going to be on Sunday. I mean, this is Wednesday night when we're recording after all.
Yeah, I think the reason they're the favorites, right, is because they expect Kyler to play against Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell Wilson would just be a road dog to Colt McCoy.
That's why the line is sitting at -2.5. But if you get the definite that both Hopkins and Murray come back, does that jump above the field goal? Maybe. Is it worth another point to get to the 3.5 above the key number? Probably.
Yeah, gonna be close.
Who knows? Well, another game that I like, Brett, is going to be the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Kansas City. Now, this might be a barbecue off in the tailgate, in the parking lots, but on the field, I don't think there's going to be much competition. I think it's going to be Kansas City coming back home and winning by a lot. They got a big win last week. They needed that win, and they're going to come in this week and they're going to beat a Dallas team that they're riding high, to be honest. The Dallas team should be riding high, but coming into Kansas City is going to be a challenge. It's not a game that Dallas is expected to win and to need to win their division. I don't think they're coming out of it, and I think Kansas City is going to cover -2.5.
Fair enough, Higgins. If there was a side I was looking anywhere on this, it would be the over 56.5. I just
That's a
expect this
high
one to
over.
be, yeah, this one's going to be a shootout. No, I mean, let's be honest.
Hmm.
How is this one going to be 17-14?
It's going to be extremely windy and wet, but that's not what the weather
60
looks like, so I don't
degrees.
think that. Yeah, it's
60
60 degrees and
degrees.
partly
Yeah.
cloudy, so I don't expect that to suddenly change. I agree. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a fun game to watch for sure in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's definitely the marquee matchup of the day. No doubt about it. You're right.
Moving on to college football, Brett, and funny timing actually, as the score just went final. Northern Illinois did win 33-27 in overtime, meaning my Huskies -1.5 pick from last episode does cash, did end up having a winning episode. We're starting a new trend around here.
Look at us, baby. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And I hope you can carry that over into Saturday, Higgins.
I really hope so, and I'm starting off with a homer pick though, so we'll see if this is just love lost or if it's actually a smart pick. But Syracuse is traveling to face off against North Carolina State, and Syracuse needs to win one more game to be bowl eligible. I don't need to tell you this, Brett, you know, but they have a tough next two games. It's North Carolina State and Pitt, two ranked teams. So can Syracuse be bowl eligible? I'm not confident, but they've been fantastic at covering the spread all year, and I think they're going to keep these games very competitive. And so, this being an 11.5 point spread right now, I think Syracuse might be able to keep this under 10-point game. So, I'm going to be taking the Orange as underdogs here, plus 11.5 on the spread. I really like this pick. Sean Tucker, his tweets every week. Last week's tweet was a little shorter than most. I think we're going to see a big game from that running back in orange. What do you think?
Yeah, I am definitely hoping they keep it within this 11 and a half, Higgins. Obviously, a big fan here. In my background, you see the Q stuff. So, go Qs, and I love the pick. So, no complaints here. And look, I hope Schrader outperforms Leary. and that'll be a big key to the game. If Tucker can run the football and be successful there, control the clock, those will be things that'll help Syracuse cover this big number.
If I'm being honest, the early bird probably got the worm there, right, Brett? That's a line that we both like, but for the Pillars, you're probably staying away.
Um, I'll be honest. I've loved Syracuse on the trend all year. I caught on at I guess I was kind of joking, right, when it was like
Yeah.
3-1 on the year. And you're just like, well, just keep betting Cuse against the spread. And it just kept on hitting and hitting and hitting. And, the truth is, Higgins, I'll probably splash on it on game day and jinx you. But, that's just what I do. I'm a good friend.
I understand it. Just one of the transparent pillar warning signs in case
Yeah,
that there were any.
yeah, when you get a text Saturday, well, you'll be asleep, but when you get a text Saturday morning, like, hey, sorry about the Q's game, I gave you a warning on Wednesday night.
Well, I'll probably be up. That's a 1 p.m. start time game for me. The game I might miss that I really like or would be my excuse to get up early for, Brett, is number 7 Michigan State at number 4 Ohio State. This is a 9 a.m. start time for me, a noon game out there, and this should be a primetime game, I think, Brett. I'm really surprised that this is an early game.
Yeah, I feel like I'm wrong on this, but for some reason it just sticks with me that like there's something about no nighttime games in the Big Ten, like late in the season or in November or maybe like in October and November. There's like some old tradition there, Higgins, that they just like stick to. So yeah, you get Michigan, Ohio State every year at noon. Sometimes you get these big time number 7, number 4 games at noon on Fox. So it's a little odd, but you're right. This one is going to be an exciting game and obviously big playoff implications here.
There are some big playoff implications. There are some Big Ten championship implications with this game. There's a lot riding on this game for both teams' futures. The line sitting at 19 and a half right now, and I maybe maybe it's just a trend that I just fade the Buckeyes a lot, but I think that the Spartans defense is going to be able to at least withhold that Buckeyes offense to keep them from getting to that 45, 50 plus mark, and it's going to be able to be kept within this 19 and a half. Do the Spartans necessarily win? I hope so. I'll probably find myself sprinkling on the money line closer to Saturday, but as of right now, I'm just taking the spread plus 19 and a half.
Yeah, I think that's a big number, Higgins, so I'm with you. That's the side I'd want to be on, but um, I don't love the Michigan State side either, so that's why I'm not on this game myself. But I again, I agree. I just think 19 and a half. I don't really believe Ohio State is 3 touchdowns better than Michigan State.
And we talk about against the spread records. Michigan State's 7-2-1 this year. They've been pretty good at the book as well. They've been cashing it for the betters. I'm going to jump on this train again. I liked them when they showed up against the Wolverines. I picked that one on the money line. That was a different game. That was in Spartans territory. This one is in Columbus plus 19 and a half. I'm just going with spread right now. Who knows though? Check out on Twitter. Maybe I'm sprinkling on the money line come Saturday.
Fair enough. All right, Higgins, I'm going over to the Big 12. Kansas, coming off their huge victory against Texas, takes on TCU. TCU minus 21.5 at home. I think this is a huge letdown spot for Kansas, which is kind of hilarious. Like, who would have even thought Kansas would have a letdown spot this year? But Kansas, this game doesn't matter, Higgins. They beat Texas. Like, Who cares what they do the rest of the season? They beat Texas.
They beat Texas. That is true. That was a massive game. You and I have friends that were at that game. I was watching and keeping aware of that game mainly because they were there. I didn't expect Kansas to keep that game close, and they outright won it. It was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. They got the walk on, never played offense, catching the game winning touchdown, doing NIL spots. Good for him. Get your money. But Higgins, they're still partying in Lawrence. So this 21.5, I think TCU covers this pretty easily.
Yeah, those football players probably aren't really that anxious to leave Kansas so quickly and travel back into the state of Texas. I mean, they did just win, but they'd like to enjoy being in Kansas probably a little bit longer. Wish this game was probably at home, I imagine.
We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I feel pretty good about that one.
Absolutely. You and I also like some night games, though. Brett, SMU at number 5 Cincinnati. Cincinnati did have a scare a couple weeks ago. They only won by 8. They were having this time where they weren't necessarily getting their wins by as much as they should. They need to run through some teams. They're at number 5. Maybe this is also just part of my prayer that Ohio State loses and isn't in the college football playoffs and that Cincinnati is in. I want to see Cincinnati in the college football playoffs this year. So I want to see them win. I don't want to just see them win, though. I want to see them dominate and force their way into this conversation. Minus 10.5. They need to easily cover this.
Yeah, they kind of need an impressive win on their resume, Higgins, so that would definitely be helpful. And our last game on the Saturday slate that we're going to go through, Tech at Miami, Higgins. It's my favorite trend, the fired coaching trend.
Ooh.
Tech fires Justin Fuente on, they fire him Wednesday morning, Tuesday morning, something like that. And look, they take on a Miami team, Manny Diaz. He's on the hot seat himself, Phil Higgins. Miami unsure if they're going to have their quarterback, Van Dyke. So, look, I'm going Vatek here. Fired coaching game, plus 7.5. 5-1 on the year against the spread in fired coaching games, Higgins. Or that's what the trend is. I'm 4-1. I stayed off the Gruden game, but it's been a hot trend.
Plus 7.5. So a fired coaching game where you just got to keep it within a score. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, pretty good one there, Higgins.
Yes, there's one more college football game that I want to talk about, Brett. We started the segment talking about some action, and I want to end it talking about a game from this week. But we're going to shift into Moneyline Magic and talk about Tuesday's action. I was on Western Michigan versus Eastern Michigan last episode, so this is a game that I had my eye on, and it was absolutely worth watching. I mean, first of all, the gray turf that Eastern Michigan has is just interesting. It's just interesting.
Interesting. How about the way they come onto the field, breaking through like the it's not brick wall. What is it?
I'm not quite sure how you describe that, but yeah, all of it's just very unique. Unique. It's a very very strange thing. I recommend checking out an Eastern Michigan game if you have a chance. But jumping into this game, it was Western Michigan that actually scored first in the second quarter. So this was a game that I had been looking at potentially taking the over with. I had said follow me on social media. I stayed away from it, and it was a good thing too because there was no scoring in the first quarter at all. We got the first touchdown in the second quarter. Eastern Michigan, though, would take the lead into halftime, or would actually just trail going into halftime 7-6 because they made 2 field goals before halftime.
Yeah, Higgins. Look, this game had, I think, one player that truly caught my eye. Western Michigan's Sky Moore had 12 receptions for 181 yards, Higgins. So I could not stop watching him all game long. You mentioned in the first half, he scored his touchdown there. So, uh, that's what made me think of it. But he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he really was. And this was a great game. Jumping into the third quarter, there was all of a sudden an outpouring of scoring. Sean Tyler for Western Michigan would run in a touchdown. Then Eastern Michigan would kick another field goal. So it's 14-9 now. Western Michigan, another touchdown. Eastern Michigan, finally, a touchdown gets them to still trailing 21-16, but they finally found the end zone, didn't have to kick a field goal, which is good because in the fourth quarter, that's when they really kicked it into gear.
Yeah, definitely when the comeback train started, Higgins. And look, great finish here.
Well, a 14 play, 57-yard drive, just 6 minute drive. They're not even leading yet, and they're just bleeding it out at home. They go down, kick another field goal. Then they get the ball back with about 4 minutes left. 6 plays, 40 yards, 3 minute drive. Kick another field goal to take a 22-21 lead. And there's about a minute left on the clock, and Eastern Michigan holds on to the win with 5 field goals and only 1 touchdown in this game. Absolutely great job. Shout out to the kicker,
Yeah,
Chad Ryland.
big game for him. Big man on campus this week, Higgins. And look, game sealing interception for Eastern Michigan at home. They're going to party hard and they're going to enjoy this win against the rival there, the directional Michigans. I bet it's a big rivalry, all three of them.
I believe it is. I wonder what the trophy is called. I should have looked that up. Unfortunately, I don't know. But there's got to be a trophy between these two teams, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, something I would hope between all directional Michigan schools.
For sure. Now, before we jump into our other picks, that's for the college basketball, NBA, NHL, and some UFC. Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add our podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Now, Brett, looking at the NBA, it was interesting because I was looking at some plays today. I ended up staying away from the NBA. It's been a weird, little interesting start to the season, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been entertaining. We had a big Brooklyn Nets Golden State Warrior game the other night. Golden
Yes, we
State
did.
blew out Brooklyn. That was an interesting result. We got Lakers Milwaukee on Wednesday night. Milwaukee was able to hold on there. Although it looks like LeBron is coming back on Friday for the Lakers, Higgins. So lots of good stuff to be keeping our eye on here.
Which, by the way, LeBron in street clothes is allowed mid-game to walk to like half court. It's hysterical to me. But what's also hysterical, and you and I talked about before we started recording, Thursday we actually have quite a lot of NBA games, even though there's not a lot for you and I to talk about. There's 6 games going on Thursday. We only had 2 lines to really talk about. That's in the Clippers and Grizzlies game and the Spurs and the Timberwolves game. Brett, I like this Grizzlies team this year. I like Ja Morant. I don't know if he necessarily makes a run at the MVP and gets it, but I think he takes another step. You like Jason Tatum a lot, and you think he's going to be into that 5 to 10. I think Ja Morant's a step behind Jason Tatum and is kind of following right behind Tatum. He's a bit younger, but I think Ja Morant's absolutely going to be someone that's in that conversation as well. And you know what? The Clippers haven't really impressed me that much this year. Memphis at home plus 100 in this scenario. I could see it. I could see it. So I'm going to take them on the money line here.
Yeah, well, Morant's had a much better season so far than Tatum, so I think it's definitely fair to say that. Look, Higgins, I think Steph Curry is the early favorite for MVP. I think if you want to take quote unquote stabs at other players, I would look at two players in this game, John Morant and Paul George. Paul George has been fantastic this year. Um, Clippers rotation right now a little short. Someone to keep an eye on in Clipperland, BJ Boston. He's played much more like the top five recruit coming out of high school than the underwhelming freshman at Kentucky last year. But he's looked pretty good, and with the injuries to the Clippers lineup right now, he's been forced into the lineup in their last game. Had 13 points in about 20 minutes. So I just think the Clippers are an interesting team right now. That would be an interesting piece if he started figuring it out, Higgins. So um, I'm not in auto fade Clipper mode like you, but I respect you backing John Morant.
Well, you did make an interesting point about the injuries that the Clippers are facing, and the Grizzlies, they are perfectly healthy right now. I mean, they're not really dealing with much. So, a healthy Grizzlies team at home midweek, I like it, especially with the Clippers on the East Coast.
Fair enough. Higgins, the Timberwolves are playing a back to back against the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs, I just a team I think is kind of slightly better than the Timberwolves. I don't know how much better, Higgins. I think the Timberwolves might even have the best two players in this game. But I just think San Antonio's played together longer, more experienced. Timberwolves been very hot and cold, coming off a win on Wednesday night. It's going to be tough to win a back to back. Just give me the Spurs plus 2.5. I think I'm protecting myself a little bit here, Higgins, but I really see the Spurs winning this one outright. So you could even catch me on the plus 115 money line at some point tomorrow, I'm sure.
Okay, back to backs are always tough. This is at home in Minnesota, though, so it'll be interesting to see. Brett, there is some Thursday hockey that I at least liked wanted to look at. Tampa Bay playing in Philadelphia. Now, the Lightning, a very good team. Philadelphia, they're still working some stuff out, but I like this Philadelphia team. I especially like Carter Hart and net. And I'm going to assume that that's who is in net going to be when they're facing off against the Lightning on Thursday. On Wednesday night, I don't necessarily know that, but I'm taking the Flyers on the money line at plus 115. Carter Hart in net, a young goaltender, needs to take some big steps against some of these big teams, and I think he's going to do that in an early season matchup here.
All right. Well, yeah, you're definitely right. It's a big game. Anytime the Stanley Cup champs come to town, Higgins. So, I think the Flyers will be ready to go, and I definitely think you get a good price betting against the Lightning because I think people want to take the Lightning.
Philadelphia also just historically is a team that's much better at home than on the road. It's a very hard arena to typically come and play in during the regular season. Philadelphia loves to even just go to these games typically. So who knows? I mean, Tampa Bay is very good on the road this year. They're 4-1-1 to start the season, but an early season matchup in Philadelphia, maybe they get shocked, maybe they get surprised. Who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows? Who knows?
definitely
That's
possible.
why they play the game. That's why they play the game. But Brett, there were some other games I wanted to stay off. I mean, your Rangers Maple Leafs. There's been a lot of talk about these Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews, for example, has finally started to heat up again. But I don't know. Your Rangers, they did entice me. I'm staying away from them. But that was another game I was eyeing.
Yeah, Rangers playing well, Higgins. I'm obviously rooting for the win there. I think an interesting spot could be Montreal at home against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has not been great this year. Not that Montreal's anything to write home about, but they're about even, and you're getting them plus 125 on their home ice. So I think that's an interesting pregame line. People could speculate, and you could reasonably say Montreal is going to win this game at home.
Yeah, I could see that potentially. I mean, I always love rooting against the Pittsburgh Penguins, believe me, so you don't got to give me an excuse for that. Brett, there is one more thing I want to talk about before we get to our Levy Locks, pick of the pods, and head on out of here. UFC Fight Night this week. It's a woman's fight at the top of the card. It's Vieira versus Tate. Ketlin Vieira versus Misha Tate. And if you remember, Misha Tate was a name that we talked about a little while ago. She returned to the octagon. It was 4+ years, I believe. Yes, 2016 was the last time she had been in the octagon before returning in 2021 in July. She fought and she won against Renault. And you don't come back to the octagon like that unless you have a plan. And while she's actually kind of made clear what her plan is, she fully intends to win this and then have a very big 2022. She wants to fight Amanda Nunes and get the belt back. She wants to go and fight Holly Holm, who she has her old rivalry with, and finish off that rivalry. She also wants to fight Ronda Rousey, who she had an old rivalry with as well. This is Misha Tate, who's 35. But let's not go so fast. She is just one fight back into the octagon. She's fighting a very talented Ketlin Vieira, who is 11-2 on the year or on her career. These two are both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters. It's going to be a very interesting fight. That's why this line is so close. Vieira -120 and Tate -105. I wouldn't be surprised if, depending on when you're looking at this and what book you're looking at, one person might be favored over the other. It's going to be that close. It's going to be a toss-up. Right now, I like Oregon's line, and I'm going to take Misha Tate at -105. I think she's going to come out as a champion, but this is going to be an absolute brawl. And this is one of those fights it's UFC Fight Night, so it's not a pay-per-view. It's on ESPN Plus. If you have ESPN Plus, tune into this on Saturday because it's absolutely going to be worth it.
What time do you think this fight goes off East Coast time, Higgins?
East Coast time, so this card is 12 fights. The prelims are going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The main card, which is the final 5 fights, that starts at 6 p.m. your time. So my guess, this fight is going to be around 9, 10, 9
Yeah,
o'clock,
I
9
was gonna
o'clock.
guess like 10 o'clock.
Not, my guess is like 9,
Run
9:30,
an hour was kind of my
about
guess.
a
Yeah. So
1 to 2 an hour.
hopefully it gets off at 10, and I will know the results on Saturday night. Otherwise, I'm sure I'll read all about it in a text chain with you on Sunday morning. There won't be any responses, but there will be a chain of text.
Or even just pay attention to Twitter. UFC Twitter is very interesting, and you'll see some highlights there as well, that's for
There
sure.
we go.
Brett, jumping into our Levy lock and pick of the pod. Unfortunately, we both lost, but Brett, you still carry the honors because you had them previously.
Oh, all right, fair enough, Higgins. Well, I'm going to the Kansas Jayhawk letdown spot. Look, TCU home team -21.5 looks like a big number because Kansas beat Texas last week. Kansas is still partying, Higgins. The party hasn't stopped in Lawrence. It's basketball season in Lawrence, and everyone's talking about the football team. So
Not used to that.
not used to that at all. They are going back to Texas this week to face TCU. TCU is a better team, Higgins. TCU in the midst of a coaching search right now. Jerry Kill trying to make his impression for the job. I think TCU gets this done here. 21.5 does not scare me off.
I I understand why there might be a letdown spot for that game. Good news, the Kansas Jayhawks basketball team is not playing on Saturday at all, let alone at the same time, because I know that has happened in the past once or twice before.
That is good news.
Yes, but Brett, my pick of the pod is going to be back to the NFL. It's an afternoon game, marquee matchup. You said beware of the over. That's sitting at 56 right now. It's two Too early for me to be touching that all the way back out on Wednesday. Maybe come Sunday I will. But Chiefs minus 2.5 over the Cowboys. This is going to be a fun one, folks. And I don't know, did the Chiefs defense look like they might have woken up a little bit last week? Or was it just the fact that they were playing the Raiders that is going through a lot right now as a franchise? I don't know. I don't know. I do know that Patrick Mahomes did very well, and Patrick Mahomes' brother was not at that game. So maybe Jackson don't come to this game either. That's my recommendation.
There it is. That's the recommendation. That's what your bet wants.
That's what the bet's really riding on, I guess. No, everything matters on the field. Patrick Mahomes and that offense looked great last week, and I think that they're going to carry that through and get a home win this week against the Cowboys.
There you go.
All right, we'll have some picks between now and next episode as well. Make sure to follow us on our social media. That's at NBBPod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 175 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys after the weekend.